Momentary Zen with host Zen Garcia at freedomslips.com, the People Station.
We did not engage in conflict that was out of line with our mission.
Is it disloyalty? Is it sedition? Is it treason to oppose the hands of tyranny? Never!
I will never send troops anywhere on a mission of that kind without telling them that if somebody shoots at them, they can darn well shoot back.
I know not what course others may take, but as for me, give me liberty! Oh, give me death!
A dark cloud is finally lifting across the world as U.S. military intelligence and their global partners are destroying the deep state criminal power structure that has ruled over our planet for hundreds of years.
We are free with the God-given right, and we shall not yield that right to any power on earth.
Hi, I'm Scott McKay. The world is at, and I am your host on The Tipping Point on Revolution Radio, where every Monday from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern, we bring you the latest in this ensuing takedown of this global criminal empire.
That's an image of strength.
You'll get the raw, hard truth here on The Tipping Point. So come join us Mondays, 8 to 10 Eastern in Studio B at revolution.radio.
This is Thomas, a.k.a. a Mad Painter. I'd like you to join me Monday nights, 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for Open Canvas. Don't forget to bring an open mind.
Yes, folks, that's right. Bring an open mind to an open canvas. Again, that is Monday nights, 10 p.m. Eastern. UFOs to government corruption. This is Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com. You don't need to expect us. We're already here.
This is the people's war. It is our war. We are the fighters. Fight it then. Fight it with all that is in us. And may God defend the right.
Warning! Warning!
We gotta stop them! They're gonna kill us all!
See how the trouble you've started?
Be they the government, be they industry, be they organized labor, be they anyone, or human beings. Time when the operation of the machine becomes so odious, makes you so sick at heart that you can't take part. You can't even passively take part. And you've got to put your bodies upon the gears and upon the wheels, upon the levers, upon all the apparatus, and you've got to make it stop. And you've got to indicate to the people who run it, to the people who own it, that unless you're free, the machine will be prevented from working at all.
Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com, the number one listener-supported talk radio station, throwing ourselves upon the gears of the machine. Revolution Radio, where information never sleeps.
You called down the thunder, well now you got it. Right, you tell them I'm coming, and hell's coming with me, you hear? Hell's coming with me!
Revolution Radio.
Here we go, hour one. Hang in there. And greetings, Earth Explorers. Welcome to X Squared Radio. I'm your host, Brooks Agnew, coming to you live from an undisclosed location east of the Appalachian Mountains. This is where the past meets the future. And here the results are always positive. We might go a little past your imagination, but have no fear. You will be safely traveling with us. We are streaming live to you through our friends at Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com, the number one listener-supported network in America, possibly in the world. We're also streaming to you live on several video platforms if you like watching that, on Rockfin, on Rumble, on Facebook and Twitch and DLive and Twitter and Foxhole and YouTube, with the archive saved on Odyssey. So you have no excuse. You can find us everywhere, and when you do, please share it with your friends, because that's how the truth gets out there. That's how we grow. So something Ayn Rand wrote in her great book, Atlas Shrugged. She said, "We are fast approaching the stage of the ultimate inversion. The stage where the government is free to do anything it pleases, while the citizens may act only by permission, which is the stage of the darkest periods of human history, the stage of rule by brute force." So we're there, I think, pretty much there. If we aren't getting you to step in line by financial sanctions against you as an American citizen, then they're coming to your house with a SWAT team and busting your door down and throwing a flashbang in the middle of your living room and tearing your couch up. Oops, sorry, we didn't mean to SWAT you. Or they're arresting you in your car, and the instant you say, "Why do I have to give you that?" they beat the hell out of you. Or worse than that, they surveil you everywhere you go. And how bad is it getting? Well, it's getting pretty bad. Why? Because they're losing. So I want to talk about the cover story tonight first, which is, are you a digital prisoner of war? Well, maybe not yet. Maybe not yet. But the mechanism for doing it is in your neighborhood, and it is being tested as we speak. Many countries and several U.S. states have employed the digital vaccine passports, touting them as a handy way for restaurants and other businesses that require COVID-19 vaccination to vet patrons. You know, like a tag for your cattle or your sheep. California is one of those states, by the way. And it's the Department of Technology director who said last year that it's great for the patrons too. So it's so convenient. He contends the system is really for the purpose of empowering individuals to access the official copy of their own immunization records. Yes. And privacy advocates, including the ACLU and, of course, America Free Radio, have raised concerns with the digital passport. And some critics have argued that such technology in the hands of a tyrannical regime might not turn out so well for citizens who actually like liberty. Tonight, you're going to find out why. It already has proven true in communist China. Chinese authorities thwarted a protest planned by hundreds of bank depositors. They were seeking access to their frozen funds in Henan province. They couldn't get their money, couldn't do any online banking, so they went down to the bank. "Hey, what's up?" Only in Chinese. They did that simply by, quelling the crowd. They didn't go in and beat heads. They didn't gas them. All they had to do was just flip their health code apps on their phones from green to red. That's it. That's all they had to do. Were they sick? No, but they had access. And as everyone notices, without the green code, without the green screen on your phone, Chinese citizens were denied access to public transportation, which means they couldn't get around. They couldn't do stuff. Hang on a second. Oh, here we go. I'm going to get right to it. Just give me a second here. I got so many screens here. There we go. That's the one I was going for. Okay. In some regions of China where there are COVID outbreaks, travelers have been required to register their plans online ahead of time to get cleared. A Wuhan resident named Wang Qiang said her health code, even though it was green, had turned red after she registered to travel to Hainan on June 11th, because that's where the protest was going to be. The police had my identity details from the last time I went to protest in April. She said she has lost access to 2.3 million yuan, which is about $341,550. That would piss me off, to say the least. I think I would go down to the bank. Reuters spoke with other depositors who said they arrived in the city of Zhengzhou by train or car, but as soon as they got there, their codes turned red. As soon as their phones were scanned by the city's cell tower, boom, their COVID passports went red. And in New York, California, Oregon, and Hawaii, they have also rolled out the digital passports. And a news site cited an article by a senior analyst for the American Civil Liberties Union. His name is Jay Stanley, and he expressed concerns about how the technology might be used for, other purposes aside from vaccination. Like, let's see, you're a registered Republican, and it's election day, and you need to ride the bus to get to the polling place. Oops, your vaccine passport just turned red. You can't get on the bus. You can't vote. Given the how could that be? That's a isolated incident. That never happened. There's no evidence of that. Look, his phone is green. Yeah, but it was red. On election day it was red. I couldn't go vote. Sure it was. There's no evidence of that. The difficulty of creating a digital vaccine passport, they could see a rush to impose a COVID credential system. And it's built on an architecture that is not good for transparency, not good for privacy. It's damn sure not good for user control. There's a lot that can go wrong with vaccine passports in the wrong hands. That could lock us into a bad standard as other parties that need to issue credentials piggyback upon that passport to offer everything from age verification, health records, hunting licenses, approval to shop. Your number, you're only allowed to shop on Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays because we don't want the stores to run out of food. So you can shop on Monday, Wednesday, Friday. But if you go on a Tuesday, well, your passport's not going to work, and you're not going to be able to get in the store. You're not going to be able to get on the bus or take the taxi or buy gas to be able to go to the grocery. So you can only go on your approved days. Trust me, this is how they did it in World War II. In World War II, they issued paper stamps, and the stamps were not possible to counterfeit. And what you did is you collected those stamps, and then when you went to the store, you were allowed to buy sugar. But what a lot of people did, is, especially if they had a lot of kids, they would trade the sugar stamps for shoe stamps so they could buy shoes for their kids. Yeah, this was going on during World War II. This is exactly what you're going to see, a black market for people that can shop on a Tuesday, even though their vaccine passport says they're not supposed to shop until Wednesday. Yes. Bad standard. Yep. Oh, and your website logins too. That could be affected. Nope, sorry, you can't watch Netflix tonight because your vaccine passport says that you are only allowed to watch Netflix on Saturdays and Sundays. What was that? Oh, yeah. That's a good question, Blue Water. He says, how would one hold a job with those control restrictions. Now, here's what they did in China. One of the things that we picked up on was a raw piece of data, and we really didn't know how to interpret it at first. And that was when the pandemic broke out in China. They had about 20 million cell phones disappear. And we thought at first, wow, 20 million Chinese have died. That's crazy. How come they're not reporting that? Turned out that wasn't the case. What was happening is the cell phone itself had been incorporated into your social credit score, and you had to use your phone to shop. You had to use your phone to get on the train and the bus, and you had to use your phone to pay your utilities and pay your rent and all that stuff. It was integrated into your payment systems. So what the Chinese people did is they simply got 3 or 4 cell phones, usually 3. And each cell phone had a different social credit score. So they would use the one that had the best score to travel with and pay their bills with and all that stuff. And they would use the other ones to, go to the nightclub and buy beer and, pay for drugs and things like that. And then, so what happened when the pandemic hit, those people couldn't afford to have 3 cell phones, so they let 1 or 2 cell phones go back, and that's why 20 million cell phones dropped out of the system. And I wonder about that. Sean Wood says in the chat room, control freaks. I wonder about that myself, because sitting around in a room and saying, yeah, we could control everybody. At some point in your nightmare, you have to say, why? Why would you want to control everyone? Why would you worry about whether everybody has 3 square meals a day and health care? What do you care? What do you care? You want to go around and wipe 330 million asses every single day? You want to wipe all those snotty noses? You actually want to take care of all those people and control their lives? I don't see it. I'm not getting it. I don't understand. I think it's much more like the cattle that I was telling you about. The cattle that you have with a plastic tag in the ear. And then that way, when the cow comes in and gets milked, you can scan its tag and you could say, oh, you gave, 3.8 liters on Wednesday and now you're down to 2.5 liters. You can monitor your asset, monitor your product. And maybe that's what they're doing with us. But, we're not cows. Once we figure out we're being monitored, our back gets pretty curved up. Our feet kind of go slow. Our mouth starts getting pretty smart. We're not easy to control that way. Chinese are. It's part of their culture. But they still figure out a way to cheat the system. They know how to do it. I had a lot of people ask me recently online, we hear the word fascism all the time. We hear anti-fascism. We have people calling each other fascists in every social media there is. We go to Wikipedia, we try to understand what fascism is, and all we learn about is Mussolini and Franco and, all these old fascists. But what really is fascism? What's the nuts and bolts of fascism? And how does it work in America? Mark Levin writes about it. He doesn't know what the hell he's talking about. I am aware most people don't know what it is. So I'm going to tell you it's all part of the deception campaign to keep you confused. But that's why you tune in here, because I have a way, sometimes it rubs people, saying, I have a way of cutting through the crap and giving you, in the fewest number of syllables, the true meaning of just about anything. It's sort of like the devil launching a campaign trying to get people to believe there is no devil. Pretty clever, don't you think? Pretty clever. There ain't no devil. What are you talking about? But the devil's a good guy. Don't you know? He got cast down here with us. The tactic is embodied, that means when something is embodied, it means, like when you're writing a patent, you will talk about the embodiments of the patent. Part of the embodiment of this fork is that you could stab a chicken leg and it will stay with the fork. It won't twist around, when you go to turn it on the fire like a stick. That's part of the embodiment of the invention. So it's sort of like a modifier. Danny is strong. Okay, well, strong is an adverb, and Danny is a noun, but the two are kind of interchangeable, right? It's because strong is an embodiment of Danny, okay? So the tactic is embodied in the use of the black bloc to burn, to loot, and to murder Americans while calling themselves anti-fascists. Fascism, plain and simple, is when the force and authority of government is used by corporations to crush their competition and extract wealth from the middle class. That's fascism in one simple sentence. Let me read it to you one more time. I know you could play this back if you want to, but in case you're driving and you don't want to reach down and do that, I'll tell it to you one more time. Fascism is when the force and authority of government is used by corporations to crush their competition and extract wealth from the middle class. The middle class is, well, the poor are sent to war or to camp or to factories. The rich either join the club or they will have their computers loaded with child porn, their gold teeth removed with the butt end of a rifle, and they will have their artwork confiscated. Trust me, there's lots and lots of evidence of that happening. The middle class, you and me, the middle class is the fatted prey for the state. And the state is the global multi-billion-dollar corporations that utilize nonprofits, think tanks, and activist groups as a multi-dimensional weapon. I say multi-dimensional because it's like a poison gas poured over your existence on this planet. It seeks out every pore, every crack, any weakness, and it seeps in to kill you. If you are sealed up everywhere, nice and tight, then it will cut off your utilities. It'll cut off your cash flow. It'll cut off your freedom to move until you kneel in submission or die. The modern wars of today occur if you are wealthy and an enemy to the state. It does not matter who you are or how much money you have. The multidimensional Hydra will come for you. It is just like Senator Schumer says to Donald Trump, to anybody, we will get you 6 ways from Sunday. This week, Virtual Joe and his gang of criminals issued its latest decision impacting one Elon Musk. Yes. Forcing SpaceX to take more than 75 environmental actions before it can move ahead with its rocket launch plans in Texas. SpaceX must take a number of steps and actions by, well, let me give you an example. Donating $5,000 per year to both an ocelot refuge and a peregrine falcon fund, and operating a shuttle from the parking lot to reduce traffic. Has to do that before it's going to be allowed to proceed with its proposed Starship Super Heavy project in Boca Chica, Texas. And that's according to the FAA now. This is the FAA. This is not a rumor. The company has proposed to use the facility to launch its Starship spacecraft and Super Heavy rocket, which is a reusable transportation system. The company said it is the most powerful launch vehicle ever made, and it's going to travel to Mars. The CEO of the company, Elon Musk, is an enemy of the state. Why can't we build things anymore in the U.S., he says. Look at this absurd process the FAA is making SpaceX go through. This is what Alex Stapp, who's the co-founder of the Institute for Progress and director of technology progress at the Progressive Policy Institute, that's what he said. Stapp highlighted what SpaceX will be required to do. They got to boost local education, preserve efforts including writing a historical report of the Boca Chica geographic area under the FAA announcement. The agencies, departments, bureaus, and administrations make up a 3 million man army for the global syndicate. As I live and breathe, I testify that this is the evil this world faces. It is everywhere, and it cannot be stopped. In addition, Mr. Musk's company must develop and produce 5 interpretive signs describing the history and significance of the area and fund educational outreach about the region's cultural heritage, the agency said. SpaceX will also be required to hire a biologist to conduct environmental monitoring within 3 miles of the site. Now, SpaceX, celebrated by the FAA's announcement saying it was the one step closer to the first orbital flight test of Starship, the American Bird Conservancy Group, they're also known as the ABC. We always have these acronyms that go along with this. It's just enough to give you the hives. Anyway, this is a radical nonprofit. It's funded by communist venture capitalists, if that makes any sense to you. And it has opposed SpaceX's proposed rocket launches in Boca Chica. It said it was disappointed in the FAA ruling Monday, not harsh enough. The group expressed concern that despite the FAA's requirement, the facility would still negatively impact local wildlife habitat, including the piping plover and the red knot, 2 threatened species, and the endangered northern aplomado falcon. Birds evidently do not like spaceships, unless they are built by Lockheed Martin or JPL, both longtime members of the fascist regime now controlling America. Mr. ABC President Mike Parr said in a statement, "We are disappointed in this decision, but surely Elon Musk and his team don't actually want to harm endangered species. Surely not. We're hoping that the SpaceX team will see that life here on Earth is worthy of more consideration and agree to minimizing the effects of the Boca Chica facility." Guys, they're using methane. They're using methane to launch their rockets, okay? You know what? It just puts out water, CO2 and water. That's it. Gosh, maybe get some plants to grow around there. You see, it's another front opened in the war against Elon Musk, enemy of the state. The Securities and Exchange Commission confirmed a couple of months ago in May that it was going to investigate Mr. Musk over his attempted purchase of Twitter. Oh, I see. Now we're getting to the crux of it. It doesn't have a damn thing to do with any falcon or some red-necked sparrow. No, it has to do with the voice. As if that was not enough, under the direction of the global syndicate, the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration announced last week it would upgrade an investigation into Mr. Musk's electric vehicle. You know the company, Tesla Motors. Over the autopilot program installed in 830,000 cars, and a move that could lead to a massive vehicle recall. The NHTSA, which is the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, we call them NHTSA because we don't like saying their effing name. NHTSA has been opposed to electric vehicles since its founding on December 31st, 1970. By 1975, it had doubled the cost of making a new car in America. 5 years. By 1985, it doubled again. By 1998, it tripled the cost of building a new car in America. It was so high that foreign car makers began building cars in America. And by 2008, Toyota became the largest car maker in the world. And 60% of the preferred stock of General Motors became owned by the federal government. Yep. And by 2009, the cost of making a new car became out of reach, totally out of reach, for 63% of Americans. And all the electric vehicle manufacturers were smashed into extinction by NHTSA, except Tesla Motors, which managed to survive by squeezing Citigroup for $1.2 billion. Yep, that's what happened. It was during its attempt to short the car maker into delisting from the NASDAQ. Elon Musk outsmarted them, and Tesla Motors exists today only because of that financial victory. All the other electric vehicle makers, except for Nissan, have been destroyed by NHTSA. Tesla Motors dominates the US EV market, but spends millions of dollars every single day fighting off the fascists, seeking to keep electric vehicles off the American highway. That is American fascism at its best. I can see it because it's up close and personal for me. And it's not just here. The other thing fascists like to do is control free speech. Yeah, that's right, Carib67. It's not about saving the environment, it's about money and control. Yes, because Mr. Musk, he came from the middle class. He's just a dumb old engineer. The only reason he's as rich as he is he happened to get on to two, not one, but two different businesses that did very well in spite of him. One was PayPal, and the other was Tesla Motors. I have to say, he doesn't know much about building cars, but he knows a lot about selling stock. Knows how to do it. Well, that's another question. Okay. What is it? Captain Super Aid says, ask the question. So what if the Tesla incinerates the old random yuppie? Just reclassify it as a late-term abortion device. The leftists will fawn all over it. Yeah. Well, it isn't about the electric vehicle, really, other than the car makers. There's 4 of them in this country, 56 big ones in the country, in the world, I guess. They don't want anybody else in the business. You know, if I, like when I tried for 10 years to launch our electric vehicle business, and I filed for several exemptions, I filed for dozens and dozens of different grants. And every time I would go down to NHTSA, it's an imposing business, an imposing building, and it's filled not with engineers, it's filled with lawyers. It's filled with lawyers. And every time I would go, they would give me some excuse as to why they could not approve whatever it is I was trying to do at the time. It had nothing to do with anything other than I found out later through another source. Actually, it was one of my suppliers. It was a pretty good-sized company. They happened to be at NHTSA, while General Motors lobbyists were at NHTSA at the same time. And they happened to overhear what was going on. And then he called me after he got out of that situation. He called me. He said, Brooks, I figured out why your applications are not going through at NHTSA. I said, why? Please tell me so I can fix it. He said, I don't think you can fix it because General Motors has a team of lobbyists and they come into NHTSA very often and they are aware of you and they're aware of the Condor and your truck company, and they have advised NHTSA not to approve anything for you. There is no win for you. You cannot get through there because it's General Motors lobbyists that are preventing you from doing it, and they're being paid big dollars by General Motors, which is basically the government, to stop you. So, we went around it. We tried to get sales without the grants. We tried to get manufacturing in what we call stages or modules, and get each individual module approved without it actually looking like we're building a car. And then by the time we had the vehicle done, it was kicking everybody's ass at all the racetracks and all the shows. My gosh, I can't tell you how many trade shows we showed up at the Condor right across the street, well, right across the hallway, I guess, from the Via, which was the General Motors Silverado that was electric. It was a white elephant. I mean, it was really expensive. It was really heavy. It was beautiful because, gosh, it was this Chevy Silverado with a bunch of batteries under it. And it was an electrically assisted truck, electrically assisted. It still had the V8 in it, but it had an electric motor on the drive shaft, and that was also controlled by an electric controller. So what happened when the system was turned on, the electric motor would assist the gas-powered motor in driving the truck and thus use less gasoline. And I think the truck got something like, I don't know, pretty close to 40 or maybe 45 miles to the gallon for the miles that the batteries were being used. But once the batteries were exhausted, you were right back to the engine that got 17 miles to the gallon combination. And where they really got burned, they didn't know this was coming. They turned in their truck to the EPA up there at Ann Arbor, Michigan. And Ann Arbor, Michigan is where the testing facility is. And they take in your vehicle and they put it on a dynamometer and they drive it on their dynamometer on a course, different resistances and speeds and stuff. And then what they do is they charge the vehicle up after the test, and they measure the amount of energy that it takes to charge the vehicle back up. And so that way they can tell exactly how much energy it used on the course, and then they would calculate what's called the mile per gallon equivalent. Okay, the mile per gallon equivalent. And, that was important, I guess, to put as an indice on the window sticker so that consumers could say, oh, I see that, exactly what it'll. No, I don't understand that at all, how much it costs to drive this truck. Ours was very simple. Ours was the little yellow label you see on your water heater, or your dryer. You know the one I'm talking about, right? Do I need to stick it in there? Well, hang on a second. Let me pull it up. I have to pull it up because you don't understand. I'm telling you what the little yellow sticker is on your appliance. The yellow sticker has a couple of good pieces of information for you. And the one thing that you're looking for is how much does this damn thing cost to operate a year, right? What does it cost? And what are the standard conditions under what it will cost? That's kind of what people are looking for, right? So for vehicles, what we want is, the standard amount of miles you're going to drive a year, right? I'm going to drive 15,000 miles a year. Okay, I get that. I understand that. You could do that. And I think that's reasonable because you could say, well, this hot water heater costs $550 a year to operate or $600 a year to operate. I get that too. And, that's what people want to know. How much is this water heater going to cost me a year to operate? And that's what they want to know on the vehicle. Well, they can't make diddly squat out with the with the label that's in the window, because it has these 16 different indices on them, and you have to know what a BTU is, and British thermal unit, and you have to be able to convert that to gasoline, and you need to know a gallon of gasoline has 35,000 BTU at sea level, do you? I mean, yes, the secret to life is clean glassware and conversion factors. I get that. But the average person, they're not going to stand there with their cell phone calculator and figure that out for you. They're not going to do that. So you need to give it to them simple. You need to give it to them simple. So hang on a second. What is it doing? Yeah, there it is. Okay. That's what I want to do. So hold on one second. I'm going to go to my shared screen, and I will show you the label. This is our label. You see this energy guide. You see that yellow label? You're familiar with that. You've seen that a lot, right? You see it at Lowe's and Home Depot, right? This vehicle will cost you $521 a year to operate. Based on what? Well, right here it says 5.6 megawatt hours estimated yearly electricity use. Your cost will vary on utility rates and use. Cost based on 100 miles per day. Results may vary, depends on terrain, driving habits, and temperature. So, but this is it. It says right here, it's based on 100 miles per day, which is, if you drive it every single day, 365 days a year. That's, 33,650 miles, right? If you drove that way every single day. But you probably don't every single day. 225 days a year, maybe during the weekdays, is when you would drive this truck. So this is what it's based on. How much energy used and what energy costs is about 6 cents a mil, 6 cents a thousandth, or a kilowatt hour, right? A mil, we call that. So it's $521 a year. That's simple enough, right? I can make this out. Energy guide, $521 a year. I get that. You cannot figure that out from the sticker that's in the window of the vehicles that you buy on the car lot. So this is the confusion that's sent to you, and that you have to fight with every single day from the government. They make things far too complicated. And of course, what they're really, really trying to do is they're trying to stand in between you and what makes sense. And they're also trying to make us jump through a bunch of hoops that are designed for gas-powered engines. Well, yeah. I mean, why else would you have to go to a dynamometer test at the EPA? I told the head of the EPA, he'd been there like 40 years. His name was Clark Gable. I swear that's his name. What parent would name his kid that? But anyway, Clark Gable was his name. And I asked him a question. I said, so, why are you guys even involved? Why is the EPA involved in electric vehicle? We're basically a toaster. We don't have exhaust pipe. There's nothing about our vehicle that impacts the environment at all. Why are you even involved? He said, because it's a motor vehicle. I said, but that doesn't automatically say that the EPA has to be involved in a motor vehicle. Where did you get that? You made that up. You're trying to test emissions or tell how far a vehicle will go. And I could give that to you with my cell phone, my calculator right here. You tell me how much the vehicle weighs, how many batteries it has in it, and how big its motor is, and I'll tell you exactly how far the thing going to charge. I could tell you within a couple miles probably, and how much it'll cost to recharge. It's all academic. It's based on kilowatt hours. It's very simple to do. He didn't want to buy it. He wanted to be involved. And those, by the way, each test cost $30-something thousand. But here's what they did to VIA. VIA took their truck up and they gave it to him. And of course, you can't lay a hand on it after you put it in the yard. It's theirs until they test it. And they ran the test without turning the electric assist on. And they were talking to him. Wait, you got to turn the electric? No, No, that's not the rules. The rules are we turn it on and we drive it. We shouldn't have to do anything extra to drive the vehicle. So they didn't turn the electric assist on. So it got 17 miles to the gallon, and that's what killed the Via. And you don't get a retest. No, there's no allowance for a retest. They don't have to give it to you. So they destroyed the Via, the electric version of the Chevy Silverado, with a technicality in the test. Still cost $95,000. Ours was $49,000. I mean, we had I think it was a 30-foot booth. We bought 3 booths to park the truck on and be able to handle the crowd. And our booth was full for 3 days. Full. We went from brand new website on that Friday night, and by Sunday night, we had sold 56,000 trucks. Well, if we could build them, we would have placed 56,000 trucks. Yeah, the market was there. Of course, then EPA and the and NHTSA went after the airbag supplier and destroyed them. So we had no airbags. We couldn't go to market. That's a lovely story. A lovely story. Government needs to stay in its lane. I get it redacted. That's a really choice. They own the whole damn highway. They own it. Curbs, gutters, and lights. They got all the lanes. All the lanes. Can you buy a Condor today? Yes, you probably could. But it's not going to have airbags. It's going to be like a kit car that you buy, like a Cobra GT. You don't get any airbags in a Cobra GT. It has seat belts, but they don't have to meet any kind of standard. You sign that you obey, that you're taking liability for all of the safety standards, and you can drive it. You can drive it as much as you want on any freeway, any highway. You can license it. You can insure it. We do, but you have to assume all liability. The issue is, of course, you can't do that. You can't assume all the liability. You already know who. Yeah, exactly right. We absorb the liability. So you buy the vehicle and you go out and slide it sideways into a telephone pole and kill yourself. And your family comes after us because we built a truck with no side airbags in it. You see? But, I mean, it happens. Look at the cars that are built without airbags. Ferraris, Lamborghinis, Strikers, none of those have airbags in them. They don't have any safety mechanisms in them. If you slide sideways in a Ferrari, and many famous people have done this, and you crash into a telephone pole, you're dead. In fact, there isn't a single car made in America or sold in America that will protect you above 30 miles an hour, 35 maybe. That's it. You go faster than that and you hit an immovable object, it's all up to how much you can hold on to that steering wheel and how sore you want to be or broken you want to be the next day. Those airbags are made to deploy in 60 milliseconds. If you're going too fast, you're going to hit that wheel before that airbag ever comes out. Or if it does come out, it's going to break your neck. The side airbags are designed to come down and stay rigid for a minimum of 20 seconds. That's a long time when you're rolling a vehicle over, but they got to come down like a 4-inch thick piece of plywood between you and the window, which is probably going to break in a rollover. It needs to cover the window opening so your arms don't go flopping out the window and your neck go out there and your head get smashed on the highway as your roof rolls over it. That side airbag is supposed to be rigid for 20 seconds, all the way, until that vehicle comes to a stop, hopefully, and then it can leak down. Yeah, there's a lot to it. Hi, Top Drifter. Good to see you out there. Do you Chuck 10A? Yes. You can buy insurance. Absolutely, positively, you can buy insurance. Our vehicles are designed to hit the wall at 50 miles an hour and keep you safe. All right. I want to talk a little bit about India because, we have protests here in this country. And in reflection, the Democrats would just love to do this. They would love to do it. And they kicked their own asses every single day because they didn't do it on January 6th. I guess they should have. I guess they should have okayed the National Guard, and they should have given them orders. If those MAGA people step inside this building, you arrest them all, right? But they didn't do that, right? Nancy Pelosi said, no. And they were there already. They didn't have to fly them in. I stayed on 9th Street, which is a little bit of a hoof. If you've ever been to D.C., you know what I'm talking about. It's a 45-minute walk, minimum, from 9th Street to the Capitol. And when it's 37, 38 degrees and the wind's blowing, it's overcast, and you don't have bathrooms along the way, you going to walk that far? At my age? No. I walked to the Washington Monument, stood around for about 3-4 hours, and then walked back. I was at 9th Street. And there was 1 million people there, minimum 1 million, maybe 1.5 million people there. Indian opposition leader Rahul Gandhi, kind of a famous name, huh? A couple days ago, he led protests against what he described as a politically motivated corruption probe. Yeah, they were doing a corruption probe, and the protesters were like, hey, you can't use government for that. We're not going to put up with this. So Gandhi, he was still answering questions from financial crimes investigators on Wednesday. And the police said about 800 members of his, All India Congress Committee, that's a party, had been arrested for demonstration without appropriate permits. They couldn't get a permit to protest, so they protested anyway. Well, that never happens, right? I mean, Antifa, they're always permitted to go out and shoot people and burn buildings and tip over cars, right? All that's permitted. Right. You ever see them arrested? No. He says, we have detained about 800 Congress supporters and leaders since Monday. They did not have permission to protest, and we conveyed it to them. And despite that, they staged protests. We have made adequate security arrangements, Special Commissioner of the Police Sagar Preet Huda said on Wednesday today. Gandhi's AICC, that's the All India Congress Committee, is commonly referred to as the Indian Congress Party, or simply Congress. Police officials said about 400 officers were assigned to direct traffic around the protests, which have been centered on the Delhi headquarters of the Enforcement Directorate, India's top financial crimes agency. I think they were investigating something, as you will find out. Gandhi was actually summoned to this Enforcement Directorate building, the ED building, on Monday. And he was facing questions. He was being interviewed pretty intensely with some evidence. Let me skip down here. Gandhi and his mother, Sonia, who was currently hospitalized due to a Ooga Booga infection, have been accused of, are you ready for this? I think you're going to be familiar with it. They've been accused of laundering money from their party and using it to illegally acquire property owned by a venerable Indian publishing company. The complaint against them was initially filed 10 years ago by a member of the ruling BJP party. India's First Post, which is like their, I guess, Times, said today unsympathetically, they described Gandhi's grilling at the ED as his Al Capone moment, the moment when a relatively minor bit of financial impropriety brings down a corrupt political empire that seemed untouchable. There are dark whispers of fabulous wealth, billions accumulated and stashed outside the country. More voices from the shadows on kickbacks and defense purchases and every other large contract. Trunks and cases and suitcases of money brought in from abroad without customs declaration or scrutiny. Stacks of land, buildings, flats, apartments, hotels, construction companies, lavish properties cropping up both in India and in other countries in vast excess of the rules. Indian antiquities, artifacts being exported to relatives in Italy, France. No frisking and passing through the VIP section of airports. It has been a charmed life at the top, with no government agency ever having the temerity to even question them, let alone start an investigation or file a case. Starting to see the picture now? Nothing untoward ever has been proved in a court of law. Of course, you have no evidence. There's no evidence of this. The Gandhis are obviously very wealthy, very well connected. But maybe they can conjure up the funds they need from thin air, like magic. So First Post argued that contrary to the Gandhis and their AICC colleagues' portrayal of the current investigation as an absurdly obvious effort by BJP officials to harass them with fabricated charges, I'm afraid there's real evidence of money laundering in the case, which is why AICC is resorting to a circus of street theater with the protests. That's why they were arrested. That's why they weren't given a permit. So for its part, AICC filed a complaint with ED and the Indian Supreme Court today about details of Gandhi's questioning being leaked to the media. Do tell. Leaked to the media. For shame. The complaint specifically referenced several news reports that quoted unnamed sources, always unnamed sources, to claim Gandhi was evasive during the probe. He lied. He was untoward, Andy McCabe, and appeared tutored by his lawyers. Eric Withholder. Come on, Hillary Clinton. Government should stop the charade and sham investigation, and in the meantime cease and desist from leaking false information to media houses selectively. Whatever. The ED should immediately stop spreading false narratives against Rahul Gandhi for ulterior political motives as a tool to settle political scores. Who's telling the truth? It's so difficult to tell in these things. AICC also complained on Wednesday that Prime Minister Narendra Modi, that's the president, his government was abusing police power to suppress legitimate political activity by cracking down on the protests against Gandhi's questioning. The police even entered the Congress headquarters to detain a worker, and a video grab showed a journalist being pulled away by a group of policemen while he was questioning a senior police official. Another video on social media shared by Congress leaders shows a policeman kicking a Congress worker who was being detained. Well, you know what happens when you call the cops. The atmosphere in the country is in front of everyone to see. We'll take a quick break. We will come back right after this. Don't go away. Second hour coming up in just a few minutes.
Radio at freedomslips.com, and we'll be right back after this message.
This is Thomas, a.k.a. a Mad Painter. I'd like you to join me Monday nights, 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for Open Canvas. Don't forget to bring an open mind.
Yes, folks, that's right. Bring an open mind to an open canvas. Again, that is Monday nights, 10 p.m. Eastern. UFOs to government corruption. This is Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com. You don't need to expect us. We're already here.
interested in the paranormal, murder mystery, real natural law? Do you enjoy interviews with amazing guests? Then join Crypt Rick every Monday night, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here on Revolution Radio. Studio A, freedomslips.com. Crypt Rick's iPhone thinking. Welcome to the Crypt.
Join me at Revolution Radio, Studio B, at 11 a.m. on Saturday for Free Association, when we take a look at philosophy, spirituality, psychology, social issues, and geopolitics. It's every Saturday at 11 a.m. Eastern on Studio B at freedomslips.com.
Enter into a world unseen on Raven Star's Witching Hour. You will encounter eclectic topics from the realm of spirit brought into our matrix of truth. With your host, the Solaris Blue Raven. Solaris will bring you an array of unique guests covering topics from ghostly spirits to amazing anomalies, covert technology, UFOs, and shadowy global events.
And that's right here at Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, Saturdays, midnight till 2 a.m. Eastern Time. Revolution Radio, where information never sleeps.
Let the magic rise.
Galactic Interstellar Council on Revolution Radio, Studio A, Fridays at 2 p.m. Eastern. Join us as we traverse the starseed paradigm, as expressed in the time-space continuum that we know as the divine expression of love and light. Integrating this conscious unity into the galactic paradigm. So welcome all, both terrestrial beings and galactic beings as one. So be it. You're listening to Revolution Radio.
Thank you for listening to Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com. Any commercial advertising you may hear in this program is of the sole discretion and benefit of the host of whose program you are listening to. Revolution Radio does not endorse any commercial products, nor does it accept monetary compensation for on-air advertising of commercial products, nor will it ever. We are and shall remain 100% listener supported. Any product advertising on this program are considered used at higher risk, and Revolution Radio shall not be held liable for any claims or damages received from any product advertised within this program. Revolution Radio, where information never sleeps. All right, thanks for listening while we took that short break here at Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com. And now we're going to get back to your host.
All right, thanks so much. Banging away there in the chat room, answering people. And just opening up a foxhole here just to see if there's anybody in the chat room there. I failed to check it earlier. It's running. It's a little bit behind where we are. Let's see if I can run up here a little bit further into the program and see where we're at. See if anybody in the chat room falls out here where I can respond to them. Yes, so somebody wanted me to answer a little bit about UFOs. Listen, I have seen UFOs. I photographed UFOs. Nobody in their right mind can deny that UFOs exist. Too many of them seen by too many people, too many different areas for years and years and years. You can't deny it. Now, we run into this kind of quandary, and that is that nobody that we know of has actually laid hands on one. Maybe some experiencers say they've taken rides in them or been impregnated by them or had children with them or whatever. I get all that. No evidence. So we have a tendency to say, well, it's the government. The government's withholding the evidence. The government has the evidence. And I got to tell you that if these are extraterrestrials or ultra-terrestrials, if they're races that have lived here on this planet long before humans really got a foothold, and they just can't, bear our polluted world anymore, and so they don't actually live with us, but they're observing us one way or the other, whether they're from out there or down there or have been here all along, they're as present as they want to be. Now, you have to admit that. Those are the facts. I'm really good at cutting through the crap on this stuff. They're as present as they want to be. And if they wanted to be more present, there isn't a damn thing anybody can do about it. We can't shoot them down. We can't follow them with our planes. There's no weapon we have can touch them. The one thing that I'm grateful for, and you know this already if you listen to this program, is they're not brandishing their weapons. If they do have these advanced craft and they can, zip around and make our F-18 Super Hornets look like biplanes, they are not using their weapons on us. And for that, I am very grateful. So those are the only things we know. Now, could somebody out there say, running for your lives, we're under attack? Some false or staged UFO thing. Hey, there's a giant ship sitting over New York City. We've been there, done that in the movies, right? Or they're invading, in Ohio or something like that. Would we buckle? Would we panic? Would we say, okay, government, just do whatever you got to take. Just keep me safe. Or would we go with our higher self, our inner self, our more sane self and say, if they are here, they've been here all this time, why didn't they take over the world when we were riding horses? Before we invented plastic or before we blew off the first nuclear weapon. I mean, back when the world would have been easy to subjugate when you could fly and nobody else can. Why wait till now when we're really freaking dangerous, if not to them, certainly to ourselves? See, those questions got to be answered in my mind. They just do. And they could all be, interdimensional beings, and they could just zip someplace else and let us have it. Just let us destroy ourselves. They'll come clean up the mess, when the radiation clears in 12,000 years. Once you get to that level of questioning, and we've sat around the campfire and we've talked this stuff out like you cannot believe. Once we get to that point and we're intelligent beings having intelligent conversations about this, then all of this, the government is holding on to this secret information stuff, it just goes away. It just goes away. Why would any advanced being give a shit who they were talking to? If they wanted to talk to somebody, they would. It doesn't matter who it is. It doesn't matter. They could land on the White House lawn if they wanted to. They couldn't do anything about it. Nothing. They could talk to whomever they want, anytime they want. So why would they talk to some secret organization in the Pentagon? Would you? Hell no. I would sooner go to MUFON in Phoenix than I would go to the Pentagon. At least then you're going to get the truth, right? Be serious. Just back away from this a little bit and you begin to see the buffoonery. All right, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about, this is a really clean story. You remember the pandemic, right? Back in the old days, back in the 2020. Washing your hands, it wasn't enough. It wasn't. You had to sanitize your hands. Remember that? And this little pump sanitizer thingies springing up everywhere. The pet store and the grocery store and the mall, God knows where. But anyway, companies sprang up everywhere making hand sanitizer. I have friends in the hand sanitizer manufacturing business. They couldn't count the money they were making. It's all over now, but now what's happened is government grants, they're kind of slow to stop whatever it is they're doing because everybody's making a piece of the action, right? They're kind of bloated and they're kind of, 90% of the time a waste of money. And now that the dumb sheep are all cleaned up and no place to go, there's about 700,000 gallons of unused hand sanitizer made by prison inmates in New York. That's just one company. One. And there are many companies. All this hand sanitizer is going unused. Yep. And it's probably going to have to be destroyed, costing millions of dollars to dispose of it. So, anyway, March of 2020, mass murderer Andrew Cuomo, he's one of the, go down in history as one of the worst serial killers of all time, right behind Anthony Fauci. He announced that New York would begin manufacturing its own supply of hand sanitizer for future distribution. And the leftover stockpile, what's it worth now since we stopped squirting and wiping that stuff on our hands? $4.3 million. Wow. Wow, baby. Anyway, Cuomo said it would cost $6 million to produce, $6.10 to produce a gallon of hand sanitizer. With 700,000 gallons left unused, that's $4.3 million worth of sanitizer at cost that has to be destroyed. Cuomo used prison labor, paid 16 cents an hour. Yeah, 16 cents an hour to make this, and it's still $6.10 a gallon. A spokesperson for the mass murderer Cuomo blamed the administration of Governor Kathy Hochul, Cuomo's lieutenant governor, for the excessive stockpile, claiming that the Cuomo administration distributed the hand sanitizer until his resignation in August of 2021. In addition to the unused sanitizer, New York State also has 89 new HVAC systems that were never used. That cost millions of dollars. And it's going to be auctioned off this summer. And it's surely going to be auctioned off at a fire sale for sure. And this is just one of the many examples of our government overreacting to combating the ooga booga that will cost taxpayers for years to come. In fact, about $1 trillion was completely wasted in 2 years. A lot. You remember the movie Enemy of the State? Enemy of the State. It had Gene Hackman, had Will Smith, and you remember that? Yeah, that. Now you remember, right? And it was made about, I remember the ventilators no one used, right? And they're expensive. I bet they're like $20,000 a piece, I'll bet you. Yeah. The prouder they are, the harder they fall. That's right. Jeannie Live said that. Just wanted to be sure everybody gets acknowledgement here. Anyway, this movie was made about the power and ability of the state to find and kill whomever it wanted inside the United States. And in this case, Will Smith was a lawyer who came a little too close to evidence that the Secretary of State had killed a congressman to ensure the passage of a piece of legislation. Hillary Clinton. I didn't say that, did I? It never happens in real life anyway now, does it? No one would plot the assassination of a Supreme Court justice to ensure a multi-billion-dollar butcher could stay in business, right? Anyway, the intense red pill for the movie was way ahead of its time. If you've gone back and watched the movie, watch it on Netflix or Amazon or wherever it's playing, you probably said the same thing. Ex-intelligence agent Edward Brill Lyle, who's played by Gene Hackman, He tells us about the surveillance state 15 years before Edward Snowden leaked the actual truth to Americans. Although we know what they're doing, it does not mean they're going to stop doing it. Plans by the city of Houston. Those of you that live in Houston. I've been through Houston a couple of times. Plans by the city of Houston to require businesses to install surveillance cameras and then give police access to them. It's drawn a warning letter from a second civil rights organization. The Institute for Justice. Sounds like an organization I would join. The Institute for Justice warned city officials the spy plans were not realistic and they were illegal because they would be in violation of the Fourth Amendment. The Civil and Religious Rights Organization said the city's exterior security cameras ordinance is nothing more than a thinly veiled attempt to evade oversight and accountability for Fourth Amendment violations. See, government's not allowed to do that. Private business can do it. They can do it all they want. You can watch your own property 24 hours a day if you want, in visible or infrared light if you want. And this is deceptive on the surface, though. And it's a total violation of the Fourth Amendment because here's how they plan to get around the law. The ordinance was adopted in April, and it orders businesses to install a citywide digital surveillance system at their expense and without reimbursement that can be accessed by police on demand without a search warrant. Just like in the movie Enemy of the State. Remember that? I want every surveillance camera. And what do they do? They pick these people up at the Victoria's Secret. They pick them up at the mall. They pick them up, running down the street because of a traffic camera. This is real. It's real. So the city is requiring the police be given access to round-the-clock surveillance network whenever they want. Just a click away. But you got to understand, systems like this, they are notoriously open to hacking. So women and children can be stalked wherever they are, no matter what they are doing. Changing clothes. Is it legal? Hell no. Is it going to happen anyway? Guaranteed. Guaranteed it's going to happen. Absolutely, positively guaranteed it's going to happen. By placing the burden of round-the-clock citywide surveillance on private businesses, the city of Houston is clearly attempting an end run around the Fourth Amendment's warrant requirement as it relates to surveillance by government officials. Now, they're already doing this in the UK. They already do this in China. But this kind of warrantless citywide surveillance inevitably gives rise to a suspect society. Everybody is a suspect, in which the burden of proof it's reversed, and the guilt is assumed, and the innocence must be proven. You understand? So, I don't know if you noticed this or not, but you're going to notice it after you listen to this program. Every single time you come to an intersection, or you're driving down the freeway, or you're driving down a 4-lane or a 5-lane in your city, look up. Look up. You're going to see extra poles along the side of the road with these cameras on them. Cameras have these little, like, black dome on top of them, so they are shielded from the sun. And a lot of them film invisible, but some of them film in infrared light as well. Well, look around. They're everywhere. They're on the traffic lights over your head. They're on the corners, looking in your windshield. So if you're going to ride around in your car with your face all showing and stuff, you should wear a hat. You should pull down your sun visor. And you should block those cameras so they cannot see your face. Wear some sunglasses. You know what they do in China? You know what they do? They wear, in Hong Kong, they wear facial jewelry. They wear facial jewelry, little gold discs and things like that. It throws the facial recognition off on the camera. And you know what they recently did, right? They turned the surveillance cameras on in D.C. and they identified like 20,000 people who were wanted criminals. It's unbelievable. Anyway, the initial demand for surveillance cameras is everywhere. Jewelry stores, nightclubs, restaurants, Minute Marts that stay open, 24 hours a day. Sexually oriented businesses, right? Like, I don't need to go into that. And of course, the convenience stores and all that. But if you pay for a massage, you better never vote the wrong way. You better never speak out against the government. Your happy ending is going to be splattered all over the internet, worse than Hunter Biden's crack-smoking underage sex videos. He doesn't care. You do. He's a protected member of the state, but you might not be. Business owners have to bear the cost of the cameras, ensure the cameras are in proper working order, maintain the recordings for at least 30 days, and they can provide video footage within 72 hours to police upon their request without a search warrant. You remember a place called Luz City Bar? If you read Charm of Favor, you know all about Luz City Bar in Washington, D.C. Do you remember the people that shot Seth Rich in the back on the sidewalk after leaving Luz City Bar? No, I guess you don't. You know why? Because their surveillance faces in that bar with their debit card purchases were never asked for by the police. They stayed on the recorder in Luz City Bar for a month, and no one ever came and got them. So they got erased and written right over again. You see, it doesn't matter. If you're not an enemy of the state, you're a friend of the state, those images will never see the light of day. Hunter Biden, Huma Abedin, John Podesta, Hillary Clinton, Debbie Wasserman Schultz. Never going to see the light of day. The constitutional requirements of the Fourth Amendment are being circumvented here. It raises concerns. Just a few weeks ago, Liberty Institute's Jared McClain said this: in addition to trampling on the Fourth Amendment rights of business owners, Houston's new law also infringes on property rights. This ordinance unfairly saddles certain businesses with thousands of dollars in new expenses to install high-definition surveillance cameras and to archive their footage so it's available for police on demand. That's what they do in the UK. If they have a bomb go off, they have a bank get robbed, they follow that guy backwards. Everywhere he's been, every square foot of outside of people's houses is surveilled. And I guarantee you, it doesn't matter what that guy does. If he shoots somebody, blows something up, there'll be an arrest within 2 to 3 hours. That's how good their surveillance system is. The decision of whether to install the surveillance cameras at a business should be up to the owner in America. Not law enforcement, not city officials. I'm just saying. All right. Let's see here. Oh, this is good. Something fishy this way comes. More than 3 billion people around the world rely on fish for food. That's a lot. Fish heads and rice, tuna and rice. Fish are a favorite source of proteins and healthy fats in highly recommended diets. Mediterranean diet, Nordic diet, keto diet. Come on. I eat it myself. I buy at least 4 cans of tuna every time I go. But new research suggests that with all things, too much good fish could also be a bad thing. A large, long-term study, by large, I mean large, 500,000 people. That's a big study. 500,000 people who eat more fish than the equivalent of a half a can of tuna a day were 22% more likely to contract a malignant melanoma. I did, and I ate probably 4 or 5 cans a month. Melanoma is the 5th most common cancer in the U.S., and the risk of developing melanoma over a lifetime is 38 for white people, 1 in 1,000 for black people, 1 in 167 for Hispanic people. It's important to note that this doesn't at all mean that we should avoid eating fish. A lot of benefits to it, way more than those that outweigh the negative portion we're talking about here. But a strong link within a sample size that makes sense in the wider context of our current environment really makes me wonder. Although the results are from a cohort study, which means they are observational and hence do not imply causation, with this kind of number and this kind of sample size, it can't be ignored. I'm just telling you, as a statistician, you can't just discount this. The role of contaminants that may be present in some fish also needs to be considered. Where did the tuna come from? Did it come from Alaska? Did it come from the Pacific Northwest, all this Fukushima crap, or did it come off of the East Coast? It is well established that toxins in our environment usually end up in the food chain, like heavy metals and blah, 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 and it goes up the food chain with each animal that eats that animal. We're at the top of the food chain, folks, so we get it all. It's taken up by the plankton, it ends up in the fish, we eat the fish or the shrimp or whatever, and it ends up in us. Previous research has found that higher fish intake is associated with higher levels of these contaminants within the body and has identified associations between these contaminants and a higher risk of skin cancer. Brown University epidemiologist Yufei Li used data from the USA NIH Diet and Health Study site for participants recruited between 1995 and 1996. They collated this with the National Death Index and the state cancer registries, and they found the risk of melanoma not insignificant, 22% higher in those who ate around 43 grams of fish a day. Well, I don't eat 43 grams of fish a day, compared with those who ate the median amount of about 3 grams per day. I don't eat fish every day. I would say I eat fish 4 times a month. The link was linear. It means the amount of tuna consumed increased the cancer, and it was consistent across several demographic and lifestyle factors, after also considering other risks like mole count, hair color, history of severe sunburn, and sun-related behaviors. That's pretty strong data. The intake of fish was only calculated at the start of the study, though, and this may have changed over the participants' lifetime. These findings in no way reduce other well-established causes of skin cancer. It is critical that we don't confuse or cloud the prevention message. Scientific evidence is clear. Sun exposure is the leading biggest risk factor for developing melanoma. Probably is. A lot of sunburns in my life. Tuna is not supposed to be full of mercury. That's a good point, though. Udi 1719 says tuna is full of mercury. I don't know if full of mercury is actually. It is tested. I wonder why skin cancer, why not liver, etc. Dini Live. Well, skin is the biggest organ in the body, and skin is the one that goes through what we call protein dimerization the most often. Okay, let me explain what protein dimerization is. When large molecules are formed, we call them macromolecules, of which protein is a macromolecule, not a polymer. It is made of a lot of single bonds and double bonds in the protein. The double bonds, which are where 2 atoms, like oxygen or carbon or oxygen and nitrogen or a carbon and nitrogen, not very often, but when they share electrons, instead of share an electron, they share 2 electrons, they form what's called a covalent bond. which typically means two electrons are being shared. This is not fully saturated. This is one step away from that in the oxidation state. So what happens is a photon comes along in the ultraviolet range, somewhere around 310, 312 nanometers, pretty high energy. The photon comes along and slams into that double bond and breaks it. It breaks it. It creates a free radical. That's called protein dimerization. Dimerization, okay? The skin can heal itself. It can come along and add that electron back. You can put some antioxidant in there and it will supply that back. But typically what happens is that free radical is very reactive. It's ready to hook up to just about anything. And it does. And when that happens, the next time that cell begins to divide, the nucleus is a little deformed. Normally we have a nice, round, corporal nucleus, right? But they can take different shapes, like one that's kind of, got several different lobes on it. We call that an abnormal or an ab. And then there's a stab, which is another type of deformity. And when we do cell analysis, we look at that and we look for those anomalous nuclei, and that usually is an indication that cell is going to start or is dividing uncontrollably, which is cancer. Because it divides uncontrollably and it becomes something else. It metastasizes. It becomes other kinds of tissue, and then it goes floating around the body and does other things, and then it gets in the lungs, and then in your spine, and then you're dead. I'm just saying, that's what happens with cancer. And the melanoma, because your skin is exposed to the sun, is the most likely, especially for white people. Oh, really? You do? Oh, I get it now. Udi says, I eat sardines over tuna every day. Well, really? I mean, sardines are a little, I don't know, maybe on a pizza, maybe, sardines? I don't know, sardines are too fishy for me. I'm not a big, I like fresh, fresh caught, like right down at the dock restaurant, like Captain Anderson's in Florida. Wow, I mean, fish is just awesomely delicious. But it doesn't smell fishy because it was caught like 3 hours before you ate it. You love them, huh? You date much? Yeah. Kitty cat breath. I have to tell you, when I lived in Japan, I lived in kind of a high rise for Japan. And I took the elevator 3 times a day. And Japanese people, fish is like the main part of their diet, and they eat a lot of fish. And it's something about Japanese culture. They don't have teeth like we have teeth. Their teeth are not straight and white. Their teeth are really crooked and really yellow. And they typically, as part of their culture, they do not have good dental care. So if you take marginal dental care and fish diet and put those together, you get where I'm coming from, right? Well, the elevator, because, when you go to Japan and you eat at a Japanese restaurant, when they bring dessert at the end of the meal, you've been eating rice and you've been eating, shrimp and, maybe hibachi beef or whatever. When they bring dessert, you know what it is, right? It's miso soup. It's miso soup. It's if it's hot, but everybody has their own version of it. Some is really, really fresh, like fresh veggies and everything in it, right? And that's their dessert. That's what they eat for dessert. And I was cool with it. For weeks, I was cool with it. I was, hey, this is great. I like this. And then it was one restaurant, I just can't remember where it was. It was just that time. It was that time, I just don't know how to explain it, but somehow that bowl came. And I looked down into that soup, and I caught a whiff, and all of a sudden, it was pond water to me. It was pond water. I couldn't get it in my neck. I couldn't do it. I didn't eat any the rest of the time I lived in Japan. And then I realized the elevator in the high-rise smelled like miso soup. It's just something. Right? Kehoe, am I right? I see. Oh, what? He says, I am wrong on this. What do you mean I'm wrong on this? Miso soup, it is the dessert. Yeah, miso soup, it is the dessert in Japan. That's correct. That's what I'm saying. That's what people eat at the end of the meal is miso soup. But I'm just telling you, I looked down that one day, I don't know, I was there a few months maybe. It was pond water. I just couldn't do it. I couldn't get it in my neck. I couldn't make myself swallow it. I couldn't do it. We ended up going to the garlic chicken restaurant the rest of the time I was there. Yes, I get it. I'm totally with you. I'm just saying, I'm a big fish eater, but it has to be fresh. And that's just something that happened to me. All right. Sleep study. This is funny. And it's true. Sleeping alone. Even in the depths of sleep, your brain doesn't shut completely off. You know that. I build stuff. I build my best stuff in my sleep. I wake up. I know how to do that. I know how to put that together. Right? Snoring, tugging at the blankets, the bumping of limbs are all registering on some level. And yet, far from interrupting your sleep, new research suggests sharing a bed could actually make you feel like you've had a better night's rest. It's true. At least that is when you're sleeping with a spouse or partner. If someone regularly sleeps with their child, they generally report insomnia than those who sleep alone. The findings are based on survey responses and sleep scores from more than 1,000 working-age adults in the U.S., and they suggest that whom we sleep next to can impact how good we feel when we wake up. Sleeping alone may be better than sleeping with the wrong person. In fact, compared to those who slept alone, participants who shared a bed with a compatible partner reported, I know you're waiting for it, less fatigue, and an ability to fall asleep faster and sleep longer. And this group, by the way, also had lower depression, lower anxiety. They had stress scores that were much lower than those people who slept alone. Sleeping with a romantic partner or spouse indicates great benefits to sleep health, including reduced sleep apnea, because you're going to get elbowed in the face if you snore, sleep insomnia severity, and overall improvement in sleep quality. And that's according to a psychiatrist, Brandon Fuentes, from the University of Arizona. Whether the improvements to mental health are due to the benefits of co-sleep or the quality of a romantic relationship overall, not really clear. It could even be a bit of both. Generally, people in committed relationships show better physical and mental health than people who are single. That's generally. Most studies, and it's because humans are not meant to be alone. They're not meant to live by themselves and sleep by themselves and not interact with other human beings. We are built to interact with one another, to bond with one another, to share energy with one another. We're not meant to be solitary creatures. Most studies that explored the benefits of sleeping alone or sharing a bed have relied on self-reported sleep quality, just like this study did. Only a few studies have really dug into how sleeping with a romantic partner actually influences the crucial neurological phases of sleep, like rapid eye movement, right? That's when you come up with your best ideas, your deepest sleep. Interestingly, the limited research on this topic found that couples not only synchronize their movements during sleep, but they also synchronize their stages of sleep. When couples slept in the same bed, their REM sleep increased by 10% and was less interrupted than when sleeping alone. 2 related studies are reported. Both involved the use of wrist actimetry. That's a monitor that goes on your wrist like your Apple Watch or something more sophisticated than that. In the first study, 46 pairs of bed partners were monitored for 8 nights to assess the extent and coordinates of their body movements and whether the latter exhibited age and gender differences. And the second study concentrated on the presence of or absence of a bed partner and included subjects who habitually slept alone or whose usual partner was absent for at least one night. Men showed a significantly greater number of discrete movements during sleep than did women. Overall, 5 to 6% of all 30-second sleep epochs contain such movements, about 1/3 of these movements being common to both partners. Interpersonal synchronization is linked to pro-social behavior, social bonding and positive effect, all of which have benefits for mental health. Because you could deal with a lot if you're sharing with someone else. Someone's willing to share it with you. This could be part of the reason why surveys keep finding evidence that couples feel better about sleep than when they do so with one another. Let's see. Another survey published just this year found respondents, although they fell asleep faster at night, if they shared a bed with a long-term partner, sleeping next to someone can help you sleep better. There have been very few studies on how the type of relationship might impact your sleep. Many studies have been done with pillows used as cuddle partners. In a word, it works. Humans can trick themselves into thinking they are sleeping next to someone by using pillows. To date, none of the pillows have registered any complaints of being hugged or leg wrapped during the night. In all these studies conducted, the amount of sleep people got overnight wasn't related to relationship status. In fact, a leading trend in American life is for married couples to have separate bedrooms and separate bathrooms, especially when they are both working. Unfortunately, surveys like these can't tell us how sleeping with a partner actually improves a person's sleep, only that a correlation exists. It could be that a person merely thinks they've slept better when in fact they have not. The hormones dumped into the bloodstream when resting naked bodies lie next to one another are vital to good mental and physical health. The cells of the individual's bodies synchronize and seem to share energy back and forth on an electrochemical mechanism that does not exist with pillows. To get around this, some research has relied on smartwatches that record movement during sleep. The data does not lie. One such study found movement at night increases when a person sleeps alongside their partner, falling in synchrony with the other person, but just because more movement is registered at night doesn't necessarily mean the sleep was worse. Spooning or backing up against one another can change the body's temperature. It can foster a deep sense of security and peace. Is sleeping with a partner better for you or not? Wide and frequent mood swings and stress are known killers. Absolutely, positively, nobody argues that. Sleeping with pillows resulted in 0 mood swings and no measurable stress. Resolving mood swings and stress while sleeping with partners supports a multi-billion-dollar industry in everything from Viagra to Sominex to selective serotonin uptake inhibitors. Conclusion? Make your bed. Keep your space shined, sorted, standardized, and sustained. Have sex 2 to 3 times a day as needed. And sleep with pillows. That's good study. I agree with it. I wrote part of it. I like it. All right, a little bit of science. Length of days. Anybody look out the window and look at the supermoon tonight, the strawberry moon? Wow, that thing is like giant. I was having a little anxiety driving home. I was looking up at it going, is that getting closer? Because it's big. It is. It's big, isn't it? How we think about our planet's center may need to be seriously updated. If you haven't listened to my lectures on the Hollow Earth, you would be amazed. New evidence suggests that instead of consistently rotating faster than Earth's spin, the solid inner core, you didn't know we had a solid inner core, did you? You thought we had some like molten core and it was the flow of lava around that gave us our magnetosphere. Nope. You need to listen to the lecture. It's pretty good. It's out there. It's out there on YouTube. It's free. The solid inner core oscillates, spins first in one direction with respect to the surface far above, and then the other direction, which means it speeds up and it slows down. It changes direction every 6 years. Bet you didn't know that. This not only has implications for our understanding of the inner workings of our home world, it can also neatly explain a mystery that has perplexed scientists for a long time. An oscillating variation in the length of an Earth day. From our findings, we can see the Earth's surface shifts compared to its inner core, as people have asserted for over 20 years. However, our latest observations show that the inner core spun slightly slower from 1969 to 1971, and then it moved the other direction from 1971 to 1974. We also noted that the length of a day grew and shrank as we would predict. The coincidence of those two observations make oscillation the likely interpretation. Although our understanding of Earth's core has developed a lot in recent decades, obviously there's still a lot we don't know. We can't go there and get a gander at it. We can't put a probe on it. We never got even close to it. The only thing we can use are the seismic waves that happen during an explosion or during a large earthquake. And this is still a very effective tool. Scientists have been able to ascertain that Earth's inner core is probably a hot, dense ball of solid iron in crystalline form, measuring roughly 2,440 kilometers. That's 1,500 miles. That's about right. 1,500-mile thick or in diameter core, which is a little bigger than Pluto, which I think I have. I do have a Pluto flyby. Let's do a Pluto flyby so you can see. There you go. Pluto flyby. Evidence also suggests that it demonstrates superrotation, rotating faster than Earth itself. Researchers first detailed this phenomenon in 1996, with an estimated superrotation rate of 1 degree per year. Wei Wang, also of UCLA, later revised the rate down to 0.29 degrees per year, using data from underground nuclear tests conducted at the Russian Novaya Zemlya test site in the 1970s. The new research went back in time, adding 2 tests conducted below Amchitka Island in 1971 and 1969, and that revealed something very odd. The data suggested that rather than super-rotating, the Earth's inner core was sub-rotating. And I have to tell you that, as the core is rotating, and then the crust is rotating around it, if the core is rotating faster than the crust, that's super rotating. But that counter rotation, that difference between the two speeds, between an iron core and an iron nickel crust around it, are what generate the magnetosphere around the Earth. That is the motor. That is the generator that's making the force. In the transition between super-rotating and sub-rotating, that is to say, the crust continues at speed, but the core slows down. And I say when it continues at speed, I mean the day gets a little bit longer, gets a little bit shorter, depending on whether the crust is going fast or going slow relative to the sun, right? That moment at which the core and the crust are going the same speed, there ain't no magnetosphere. Now, what did we do? What did we do in 1972? Think, what did we do in 1972? Everybody says it was impossible to do. Right. We sent men to the moon. We sent men to the moon. Now today we say, oh, we can't do that because the magnetosphere, the Van Allen radiation belts would just chew you up. You wouldn't be able to survive it. If the core of the Earth and the crust of the Earth were going the same speed, relatively the same speed at that year, the magnetosphere would have been very weak. No way to capture the Van Allen radiation belts. Humans would have sailed right through there, no exposure. I'm just saying, these things do tend to line up when you go outside the discipline and begin to bring in other pieces of data. The 6-year periodicity of the oscillation neatly matches other oscillations for which we don't have a confirmed explanation. Earth's days undergo time variations of plus or minus about 0.2 seconds every 6 years or so. Not that you would notice, right? You're not going to wake up one, hey, wait a minute, that sun is going a little fast for me. It's 0.2 seconds per day. But we can measure it very tightly, so we have instrumentation. This all means that what do we need? More data, right? We need more data. So the U.S. Air Force's Large Aperture Seismic Array, which, by the way, was closed in 1978, and underground nuclear testing, is not as prolific as it used to be, thank God. But further evidence in sensor technology could mean that the detailed data needed to probe Earth's inner core isn't so far into the future. The results are so far offer a tantalizing hint that Earth's insides are a bit more complex than we knew. Something we've been trying to tell you since 2006 when I joined the North Pole Inner Earth Expedition. Been leading it ever since. If you want to know more about it, you can go to the website. It is at brooksagnew.blog and just look up NIPI or Arctic Expedition. It's right there. You can read all about it and you can join us and support us. All right, let's see what else we got. Yes, I have enough time, barely. China is melting down. All the banks in Shanghai today just restricted depositors from going to the ATM. Can't get your money out. And it's caused a line, to be sure. Multiple sources have confirmed deposits at the following 6 banks, all been frozen. Not that you have money at any of these 6 banks, not that I could pronounce half the names anyway, but there's a lot of them. In Xuchang City, in Henan, city of Shangqi, in Zumadian City, a city of Kaifeng, Bengbu City, and Huangshan City. It is understood that the banks with branches across the Henan and Anhui provinces successfully issued announcements in April stating they would suspend online banking and mobile banking services due to a system upgrade. Oh, those system upgrades. They could take a while. Anyway, at the same time, clients reported their electronic deposits in online accounts, mobile apps, third-party platforms couldn't be withdrawn. And this led to depositors rushing to local banks only to be told not able to withdraw funds. So late last month, the Chinese social media of demonstrations at the front of the numerous bank branches really got things going on Twitter and, WeChat and all that. They really got jacked up. They said it has caused widespread concern on the internet, but the media attention is not high. The highest degree of concern is the 4 banks in Hainan. The People's Bank of China has responded to the rural bank run. It issued a statement on April 25th. Here's the statement. The People's Bank of China is highly concerned. At present, relevant departments have launched an investigation. The People's Bank of China will cooperate with the relevant departments to protect the rights of financial consumers. What a bunch of doublespeak. It could happen. It could happen. I advise you all the time. If you earn more money than you spend, you probably have some desire, or maybe you have saved a little bit of money. I'm just asking you to resist building it up in the bank. It looks great. Believe me, I like looking at the account going, wow, I got all that money in there. I'm doing pretty good. I made $2 in interest last month. You want it. You know you do. But come on, you've looked at your cryptocurrencies accounts recently, right? Down 40, 50, 60%. Did you sell? I did. I sold. I said, screw this. Not taking it anymore. I'm never buying it crypto ever again. Not happening. I've been in it, rode the elevator. I've had my fun. I'm out. But if I have cash in the bank, it's sitting there and it builds month after month. I take 25% of it. About every other month, I look at it and I say, I got X dollars in there. I take 25% of it and I buy silver. And right now, silver's spot price is 21 something, but you can't buy it for that. You're gonna spend $24-25, which would include shipping. And I buy 10-ounce bars, and I look for deals. I do. I look for deals. They don't come along very often. But I'd convert 25% of that cash into silver. Now, I've got a right smart of silver. I got a trunk full of it. I couldn't haul it around. I have to make several trips. If the dollar ever tanks or it's replaced by some, central bank digital currency, I still got the silver. Silver's still going to spend. Gold is wild. Gold with this new Nigerian find, it's gonna click the market. I just hate to tell you, gold drives people freaking crazy. Not so silver. Silver's a good solid investment and anybody can afford it. Okay? Start small. Buy 1-ounce bars. Buy 5-ounce bars. I did. And then work your way up to the 10-ounce bars. They're nice. They're handy. They stack well. They fit in a cigar box nicely. They fit in the door of your truck really nicely. And they're handy. It's just a good metal. Store your metal. And remember, it is a storage metal, so you're not going to cash it out 2 months after you put it in there. It's kind of taking it out of circulation. We're here every Wednesday, every Sunday at 8 p.m. This Sunday, however, I'm going to be traveling. Denver and then L.A. and then back to here. So I'll be running archive on Sunday, but I will be back next Wednesday. All right? Peace, Earth Explorers.
Listening to Revolution